part 3 of the series of communicating and controlling and getting data from our SIMOCODE to our PLC is all around what we call automatic device replacement. So if we take the scenario where we've got a SIMOCODE which has failed in the field, we would typically have to replace the device with a new device, and then we'd have to start the commissioning of the device again for getting it back to how it was as originally commissioned. But what we've got is a beautiful feature inside the SIMOCODE when it is used with an S7 1500 or 1200 PLC at the top end. What we can do is this automatic device replacement. What that means is we will put the new device into the field, reconnect the programming cables or reconnect the network, and the device will get its parameterization, its original parameterization, directly from the PLC, meaning that the engineer has no or doesn't have to have any tools to be able to replace the device or any programming software or capabilities. It also increases machine availability, plant uptime, so on and so forth. There's two things that we must do though to be able to take advantage of this feature. So first of all, what we've got to do is go into the parameter for the SIMOCODE and the Profinet parameters, and at the bottom of the list we see startup parameter block. As default, this will be inactive, so it will be in this state. What that means is now the configuration data for the SIMOCODE is stored in our S7 1500 PLC, and it's stored in the hardware configuration ready for when there's a device replacement or a new device on the network that it identifies is in the same place as this SIMOCODE, and it will automatically send the parameters from its hardware configuration into the SIMOCODE device. If it's in this sort of state where we've got startup parameter block is active, what that means is the configuration data for the SIMOCODE lives in the SIMOCODE, and it cannot be changed from the PLC. We must then recommission the SIMOCODE locally at the device, or we can do it via one of the SIMOCODE initialization modules. But for taking advantage of automatic device replacement, then we're going to untick the parameter block, and that's part 1, and we must now send that down to the hardware configuration for the PLC. The second part that we must also do is to set our topology up. Topology is the physical point-to-point connection for our network architecture, and for my really simple network here, I go from port P2 on my PLC to the bottom port on my SIMOCODE network, and that's my topology set up. If you've got a more complex network with network switches, then yes, your topology will be more complex, but we must have a topology set up to be able to take advantage of this automatic device replacement. Now we've done these two things, so the two things we must do: make sure parameter block is inactive on the SIMOCODE, and we've got a topology set up for our system, and now we can take advantage of automatic device replacement. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to download this to the hardware configuration in S7 1500, because this is where these changes live. They live in the hardware configuration in our Siemens PLC, and this is only possible when using a SIMOCODE with a Siemens PLC. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate to you a hardware failure. So I'm just going to quickly disconnect my PLC from the network. I'm going to factory default my SIMOCODE device to simulate a new device or device replacement should we get into a failed device scenario. So the SIMOCODE is now factory default. If I just update accessible devices, you can see we've lost its IP address, its device name, and all of its configuration data. So this is a blank device on the network. The minute that I connect my network back together, so my PLC now can see and communicate with the SIMOCODE device, then automatic device replacement takes place. And if I just update my accessible devices, I've done no configuration now. You can see on the network that it has renamed the device to the SIMOCODE Profinet, so it's given it a PLC a Profinet device name, and it's also given it its IP address and all of its configuration data, and we're back into operation. zero engineering device replacement. You replace the hardware, reconnect the network, and the device operates as it did previous to failure. Just by doing them two things of making sure that you've got parameter block inactive and you have a topology view active. Perfect.